This Tariff Act of 1930. Anyway, morning, Mike. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking.
So you're looking at the Tariff Act of 1930?
Yeah, because when we get to the Carney thing, I will basically look at that. Okay. All right. So, okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Got to put this one first, I think. The 6 Marineland belugas have now found homes in the US. Now they've started moving. They're now swimming in new US homes. But activist Phil Demers says he's going to keep looking at them to make sure that they're well looked after.
Well, there's also aren't some going to go to Spain eventually?
Yeah. Eventually, yes. They're not, only 6 have left, so there's still a lot, there's still more to go. So it's a process that obviously is going to take a few months. It's
yes.
not gonna happen in
a little later after that. A little after this, I will tell you. I'll give you my film analysis of the Odyssey. I went to see it on Monday night. So I'll give you my film analysis of the Odyssey a little later on, right after this. But yeah, beluga whales. Now, Marineland is getting 4, and nothing's been happening there pretty much. And Marineland is running out of money, and it had a deal with China, but then the Canada says no, that's not in the best interest of the whales. We don't want to send them to China. And then Marineland says, well, then I'm going to have to kill them. Basically, I'm going to have to euthanize them because you got to give me some help here. I mean, we made a deal for them to take us someplace. We can no longer take care of them because people here don't want to go see. Not enough people want to see captured whales here. We get protests all the time. The current attitude towards Canadians with captured marine life is not good. We won't make a whole lot of money. We gotta do something, and you got to help us out. So the Canadian government, along with agencies in the U.S., the aquarium system in the U.S., helped out, and they get the beluga whales safely, it appears, to other sites. That's remarkable, actually. They put them on planes, 777s. They put them on planes and flew them to the destinations. That's remarkable.
Mm.
And anyway, but the fact of the matter is, and I'll put this out there again, that captive whales are going to be continued. This group of whales will continue to be captive, and they may procreate in captivity, and they probably will, as what happened. So the very idea that they are captive whales would be kind of like, hi, Rick. Good morning, Rick. Even the belugas are leaving Canada. That's the kind of interesting side note. We find a lot of Canadians leaving Canada, go to the United States, but we find a lot of Americans leaving the United States and going to Mexico. It's a trend. Yeah. Certain trends happening. They go to places where it's a lot cheaper to live and a lot less taxes, et cetera, et cetera. But anyhow, that aside, the beluga whales have left and have gone off, and I don't know. I think probably that's the end of it in Canada. They were the last captive marine life in Canada, as far as I know, and I don't think we'll see a return of it. But like I said before, the belugas are still going to be a captive bunch of whales, and they're going to procreate in captivity. And you're still going to get killer whales running around a giant swimming pool, basically. splashing people, etc. And I'm not
Yeah.
so sure that's a good idea. I don't like the sensibility of the modern person does not want to see what should be a wild animal captive. We can see them in zoos and things like that, provided the
Well,
zoo gives them a pretty
my
good life.
yeah, my neighbour actually went on an Alaskan cruise to go and see the whales and dolphins up there. Right?
Yeah, sure. And I know I've seen whales too. I've seen whales in
Yeah.
Dominica. I've saw sperm whales in Dominica. I've seen killer whales out west.
The thing about Wales is that if you get to some more remote islands around even most countries, even highly populated countries like the UK, you can still see whales. They are everywhere. They just pop up once in a while. You have to be lucky, mainly. They pop up once in a while to breathe.
Yeah, they're hiding somewhere there, and
Yeah.
they're hiding in plain sight.
I saw one. I saw one when I was.
Hello, over here behind this rock.
Well, I saw a whole bunch. I saw a whole bunch when I was a kid off the Isle of Wight to the south of to the south of Southampton in the UK. And yeah, there was a small pod of them, probably 10 or 20 that I saw. Fantastic, totally unexpected.
The Isle of Wight is supposed to be where the whalers come from that went to the United States.
Yeah.
Well, went to the colonies. So
Yeah.
I think probably an ancient form of whaler must have saw the whales too.
Yeah, yes, Karen. It's only 6 belugas that actually went to new homes on this particular time, but they're still dealing with the rest of them, right? So these are the first 6 to go.
Yeah, and well, basically there are people who are happy. I have mixed feelings, of course. What else are you going to do with captive beluga whales? You either euthanize them or you continue to display them.
Yeah.
And the reason why you have to continue to display them because you have to make money to be able to feed them and treat them.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to get money is by displaying them, by asking people to pay you money to come and see them.
Yeah.
And so I don't see any of these whales having any happier life. But at least they'll be taken care of better. It won't get worse for them. Let's put it that way, because it looked like it was going to get worse when Marineland didn't have any money to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, so let's finish with that one, and let's go on to your review of Nolan's Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's Odyssey.
Well, I like to tell everybody that I went to see the Odyssey because you won't have to. Save your money, I would say. Anyone that knows now, if you didn't know anything about the Odyssey before or the history of it or anything like that, yeah, you might find it.
I've read the books. I've read both the Odyssey and Iliad.
The Iliad.
Yeah. A long time ago, mind you. Obviously, if I saw a film right now, I'd remember how it was against the books. Yeah, but go on, continue on.
Okay, so basically, what they get wrong here is the uniforms right off the bat. Historically, this is supposed to be a late Bronze Age episode in the world. After the Trojan War, the king Odysseus of Ithaca starts to go home, but he runs into problem after problem on the way home, and so it starts at the end where Troy has been completely massacred, and the guys are coming home after 10 years of fighting Troy.
Yeah,
but of course the uniforms are all wrong. They're putting on armor and uniforms that are 500 years younger than the ones they that are in the film. That should be like bronze.
Yeah.
They're not using Bronze Age armor. Well, in the movie Troy, they didn't do that either. They used the classical Greek armor and warfare methods in the movie Troy as well. Probably because the audience wouldn't recognize the type of armors, or are pretty much conditioned to have that type of armor they have. They go on a Viking ship, a Viking ship that was built for a different purpose, but they use that as the ship. So there you go. The ship is not really of the date. It's a Viking ship in the Mediterranean area. So that doesn't work. So historically, it's not really exactly sound.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some reason, he likes to film in more darker tones and shadowy tones and darker tones. So they go around So Odysseus has a bunch of different adventures. I won't spill the beans on what they are if you actually go see the movie. He has a bunch of different adventures, and him and his men as they try to get home, and then he has to get home to see his wife, who he hasn't seen for 20 years, and she's being pushed by suitors to marry one of them so that the Ithaca has a king. And of course, he has also a son that's now grown up. So there's a bunch of different things. And of course, it is a woke film. Christopher Nolan is kind of the old-fashioned woke guy. Now, the reason why I say old-fashioned woke is because I think woke is becoming out of fashion, even among directors and artists and that. I feel that that's kind of a passé thing right now. I think that Christopher Nolan here is among the last of the woke, and I don't think he'll be so woke in his next films. What he has here is a Greek epic, and a hugely Greek epic, and not one Greek person in it. You'll find Asians, you'll find blacks, you'll find Northern European-looking fellas, but you will not find anybody that looks like a Greek, acts like a Greek, or even is Greek. And of course, the people of Greece are astonished by this, that Nolan has a Greek epic and there's anybody but a Greek person in it.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. But again, isn't this just Hollywood license for you?
I suppose it's kind of disappointing. You have a wonderful story here that you could really do.
I'd never go and watch a film, a story based upon this kind of I'd never go watch a film based upon this kind of story.
Well, it is a pretty good story. Now, if you choose to go, it's still a pretty good story. There's still some really good film. My biggest problem with it with a few exceptions, he does not allow his characters to develop well. He has some sensational actors in this movie, and he gives them all small parts. Even Odysseus, he gives them really kind of wooden type of comments, very little real good acting. And because the story is so varied, it doesn't get a chance to really explore the character of Odysseus or the meaning of the film in any way. If you go see the movie Troy, when I went to see the movie Troy, I thought this movie is going to be really stupid because it's full of pretty boys like Brad Pitt and Orlando Bloom and so on. And I thought that's going to be dumb. And I said to myself, it's historically inaccurate too. But I liked it because it told me of the futility of war. I got that message strongly from the film about the futility of war. And years later, I was reading about Homer and how he wrote Iliad as a futility of war. So the message got through to me. I didn't really get much of a message out of the Odyssey, basically, except that the king of Ithaca, Odysseus, seems to be a man of practical means. He keeps things from his men. He he goes into danger, knows that his men are going to get killed, but he doesn't tell them, et cetera, et cetera. He has to make some hard decisions, so that
But let's be honest.
Some will die, but most will survive, kind of thing.
But let's be honest. That would be on par for a king of that era, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I think he loses the message in the Odyssey. Odysseus is a cunning person who out cunnings basically all the witches and the sirens and any kind of problem he has going forward. In this particular case, he seems to be a very very stiff man of extreme logic. He did not, in my estimation, he did not give Matt Damon time to really develop the character or anywhere else. There is some scenes near the end of the movie between him and his wife and things like that are pretty good acting, but for the most part, it is too quick and jilted. This movie, if you and the fact that he has like Helen of Troy is dark as coal. She's a good looking woman. She's a pretty woman, but in the Odyssey, she's obviously a very white person, because she's described as a person of white arms and very fair beauty with white arms. I don't know what it means by white arms, but you can expect that.
She doesn't go out in the sun. What I interpreted by that, by the way, was that she doesn't go out in the sun much. She's one of these ladies that stays under the umbrella.
Yes, good point. Very good point. Very good point.
You know, that umbrella picture is more Victorian than it was Greek, but I have no other way of describing it.
That's right. In many cultures, the females stay out of the sun to make sure that no one confuses them with a servant that has to go out into the sun.
Yeah,
and, so anyway, and get tanned. So that's a complete wokeness, and I like to speak to that wokeness. They put this Helen of Troy as a black lady. The main poet is a black guy who is a rapper, I think. Which doesn't really bother me that much, except for the fact is that directors seem to do this token thing, put these people into places where they don't belong historically, and they think, aha, here I am serving the needs of the minorities by doing this. And I think it's an act of cowardice, because if Chris Nolan really wanted to serve the needs or have an homage to minorities, he would do a film completely about Africans with all black actors. There are a bazillion stories. Africa is the second biggest continent in the world. There's a bazillion stories in Africa about Africans that you could make movies about. You could make huge epics about Mansa Musa, about kings of the Congo, about any manner of different things, about the Ethiopian king. They don't.
Or even just
why they don't is because they're cowards.
Yeah. Or even just personal struggles across, of people, getting a better future in Africa. Those stories could all be told, can't they?
Well, I don't care about, this is an epic. This is an adventure epic. And they can have all kinds of African stories for a continent. There's 54 countries.
Yeah.
And hundreds of different nations and peoples in Africa. And they've got stories galore, like the epic, like the Iliad, and like the Odyssey.
And many of which,
in my mind, why don't they do that? In my mind, why they do that? Their solution is to take black or Asian actors and push them into European stories. Why? Why not just go to Africa and find African stories and relate them.
Yeah.
And here's one too they could have made a story of. The Mansa Musa, who was probably the richest man that ever lived in about 1400, I think, 1450. I can't really remember exactly the date. He was probably the richest man that ever lived in what is now West Africa. The predecessor of Mansa Musa was a king who got a bunch of ships together and headed west. He never was heard of again. But if you want to make an Odyssey, a movie about an Odyssey, why not do that? Instead of taking black actors and Asian actors and pushing them into European stories where they don't belong, why don't you make the Odyssey a kind of a black Odyssey or African stories, which I can't understand why the woke type directors like Nolan don't do something like that.
Yeah.
It's just, I know, I actually, it wouldn't be good to have a woke director. You'd have to have just a real director to do that. And there are millions of stories, thousands of stories that could be done like that. I just don't get it.
Yeah. And in fact, you're right, because actually, okay, so that situation you just described leads itself exactly into that type of epic. You know, you have a group of people that left Africa on a ship that probably brushed up against the rocks on some foreign land, you know, and were all killed. But possibly, you know, but you could make a great story about how they landed on South America and were welcomed, you know, and became a distinct tribe.
It could be anything.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
what is the point? What is the point of making the littlest mermaid or whatever that movie was? They put a black mermaid in. It's a Danish story.
Yeah.
In Denmark, and they put a black actor in there. Well, obviously, the people who created that story had no idea what a black person was originally, because they're all very fair northern types. And why not find an African story you could tell with an African person rather than taking an Afro person of, and then pushing them into that story? What is the point of doing that? That's my idea. My brain is hurting. Okay, sorry, Rick.
and okay, so we've got now a segue into the next piece, which is about critical thinking, right? Because you put this point out about decline of critical thinking skills, and I thought that was quite an important thing, especially. I didn't know that it was specifically. Well, this is a bunch of university specialists who've gone out and looked at the situation as far as young people are concerned. Millennials and Gen X workers is what they focused upon in US, UK, Germany, and Japan. But I think there's been a decline in people's ability to think deeply and reflect over the past few years anyway. It's not just the millennials and Gen X's. And some of these conclusions that I see, I kind of draw that conclusion for many people.
What conclusion?
Well, a lot of the conclusions, what they were talking about, how do you improve your critical thinking skills? And there's about seven tips on that, right? And these are kind of interesting. Avoid the urgency trap. Yeah, try not to make.
All right, let me just kind of review this for our audience here. Now, the reason why I posted this article, it goes all the way back, I think, to 2023, is because I couldn't post the one that I had read. It wouldn't allow me to post it. And basically, it was talking about the erosion of critical thinking skills that the average person has. In the article, the original article that I found was very, very critical of not critical, but observant of the fact that pretty much social media and my favorite, YouTube, eats up your brain and gives you snippets of things you need or like, and takes away your ability to have critical thinking skills. And I thought to myself, I like this because I can't figure out why Trump supporters like Trump so much, why they got stuck in the cult of Trump, particularly when he is a liar and a cheat and a grifter and all those other things. And I couldn't understand why didn't people just listen to him and determine that, he's an idiot. And then that article came up, but I couldn't post that one. So I found another one I could post. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is about this is that it talks here about young people find themselves stuck in practical or survival thinking as a result of the pandemic. And I would also reflect, and not, it's not to dissuade what the researchers have found, but in my view, it's that this is a common problem across the whole of society, and that people don't think deeply, and it's not easy to do so in the world of distractions. No, thinking clearly, deeply, and productively is one of our most valuable life skills. But research shows that it's becoming one of our most endangered skills. Right? And that's where the part of the problem lies.
I think a lot of marketing has a lot to do with this. When you get your phones and your electronic devices, now of course they're worried about critical thinking and the erosion of the critical thinking, and this has begun ever since the beginning of TV, basically. Now, do you take TV and use it to help you learn stuff by looking at documentaries or anything, or do you go to Fox News and get a bunch of rubbish that will incite you and enrage you and insult your intelligence?
Yeah,
and that kind of thing. So how do you then view what you do? We talk about news sources here, like there is a variety of news sources. Fox is rubbish, but there are pearls of wisdom in Fox. Fox is going to report on things that CNN or the Democrat Party don't want you to know about. So is it worth watching it? Not listening to it, maybe trying to figure out what they have that the others don't. CNN, the same thing. Pretty much all American news cable networks are pretty much rubbish. All of them, CNN, Fox, and everything else. So you have to have a real discerning ability to watch them to get any good thing out of it. It's like a smorgasbord of rubbish, but there's good things in there. You just got to know how to find them.
Yeah.
And then go to places like Al Jazeera or BBC or other sources of news. Okay.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I do. If I was watching, let's say I was watching about the developing war in Iran, I might watch for an hour on CNN, and then I might watch for an hour on Fox. I might watch for an hour on CBC, and I might watch for an hour on the BBC, right? Because of
course, Fox, you're going to get.
Well, I'm going to actually get a cross section of all of those reports, and I'm going to look at some other reports. I'm going to read reports as well about it, right?
Well, basically, of course, this is part of critical thinking, and let's get it back to critical thinking.
Yeah.
We don't find that anymore. We find that Fox News gets nearly twice as much the viewers as the two next networks combined. And anyone, I think even probably Fox News watchers could tell you that it's largely a bunch of right-leaning rubbish. It is the Trump broadcast network, basically, and they make lots and lots of money rage baiting everybody, and that is the problem. It is disguised as news, and people don't have the critical thinking ability to understand that is a money generating show based loosely on the news.
The interesting thing is about that, of course, is that 15 or 20 years ago, I used to probably watch Fox News as my first go-to news station. I stopped doing so.
How could that be?
No, I said 15 or 20 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
I stopped doing that because of the changes how they did their programming. Right?
Yeah.
So let's look at
all right. So here, let's go through the engagement at the typical critical thinking that we seem to have been lost. And of course, I'll go right back to the media that we have now. The media now is making like things like YouTube or other media, social media, can make a lot of money off you when it figures out what you like. So if you go on YouTube, for instance, if you go on YouTube and you go on Fox, you're going to get a bunch of Fox stuff and you're going to get a bunch of right-wing stuff. Then if you go to Al Jazeera or something like that, then you're going to get other stuff. And then if you search, like there's a guy like an old conservative BBC reporter called Andrew Neil. I like listening to him once in a while because he's a real journalist, even though he's right-leaning. He's a real journalist. And he's more apt to tell the truth than fall into the trope of MAGA or something like that. So I like to listen to ABC News. Like there's a show called If You're Listening. There's Elephants in the Room. There's a bunch of different shows on that I like. But so they find my algorithm. They find the thing I like, and then they start hitting me with it. So if I watch a blurb on Fox News, then I'll get a bunch of right-wing rubbish. If I do CNN, I'll get a bunch of CNN stuff. You know what I mean?
But actually,
if I watch BBC, I might get more Canadians.
The interesting thing is, Dave, is that I've seen an advert in passing, and then I think back up on it, and a few days later, and think to myself, oh. I remember that ad about this and that and the other. I want it back again. So I now start searching around the place for this and that and the other. And sure as heck, it comes back to enable me to look at it.
Well, I'm talking about things beyond that. Like, so let's say you want to buy a really cool shirt that I got, that green one with the parrots on it that everybody just loves so much.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'd be buying that one.
Yeah, you're jealous. I know everyone else is too. So if I go looking for that, then people who sell that type of shirt pick up on it. And then anywhere I go, whether I go to the right or the left or the middle, or look for history or science or anything, there will be those advertisements show up. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
on the sites that I go to.
Yeah, but
so that's a little bit different. They don't care who you're watching. They're just going to introduce their ads into whatever you're watching. I'm talking about something else where things like YouTube will try to figure out what you like and then just feed you that steady rather than feed you a variety of things.
Yeah, but what I was actually saying there, Dave, is I engineered Facebook to come and give me what I needed it to give me, something that I'd ignored a couple of days ago. So I went looking. I did a search that I did nothing with on Google 3 or 4 times, and then the ad popped back up on Facebook to allow me to get to what I needed.
Anyway, so here that has the tricks for critical thinking. Avoid urgency traps. If you tend to rush through decision making, that's a very modern thing. We always feel rushed. You got to get something done. Engage in reflective thinking. Take time to reflect your thoughts. Anything that you have prejudice with you is going to be how you interpret anything you read. So be aware of your own particular prejudices and experiences when you judge other things, because it may be tainted by your own experience. Practice active listening and effective communication. Listen carefully. Listen carefully to what they're saying.
Active listening takes effort, because active listening means that you're not just Most people listen and listen badly. Active listening, however, requires you to put effort into listening. Sure, even when active listening, you will miss things because Dave will drone on about the war in Iran, and I will miss the fact that they bombed the president's palace in as part of that.
Well, basically, active listening also includes the fact that you're listening to something and they're giving you what you want to hear. They're giving you what you want to hear. I'll go right back to Fox and CNN and stuff like that. They're giving you what you want to hear, and you're happy with that. Active listening means you listen and understand exactly what they're saying and do not accept it as the things that you like about it right off the bat, and don't reject the things you don't like about it. And then after that, we have embrace curiosity and lifelong learning. So if somebody says a fact or something like that, particularly with the new, what?
You missed one. Solve problems systematically.
Oh,
Break down
sorry.
complex problems into smaller components. Identify underlying issues and consider multiple solutions. Practice problem-solving techniques such as brainstorming, evaluating tech alternatives, and anticipating potential consequences.
Yeah, basically step away from anything you hear and analyze that objectively. Do not put yourself into it emotionally. Even if everything they're saying to you is something you like to hear or you want to hear. You know, like Saddam Hussein had a whole lot to do with the 9/11 attacks. And that's why we got to invade Iraq. That wasn't true at all. But we were all hot to make sure that we got revenge for that. And we didn't really care who, in the end, paid for it. They're all the same over there. All those Arab dudes, Al Qaeda and Saddam Hussein are all the same. That's not true. So we got to, we in the West feel very gratified that we dropped a whole lot of bombs on Iraq and killed a lot of Iraqis, innocent or not. And well, that's what they deserve for flying, being involved in the Al Qaeda thing and having weapons of mass destruction. We found out that that was a huge lie. And if we had better critical thinking, all in all, most of us, we wouldn't have bought that hook, leg, and sinker like we did. And
part of this is about number 6, which is engaging critical thinking.
Well, let's do number 5 first. Embrace curiosity and lifelong learning. So always seek new ideas and new opinions. Basically, continuously expand your understanding. So basically, I hear a lot of stuff about Palestinians and things like that throughout my life, and I'm like, and most of it is a big lie. That's why I'm so against Zionism and those kind of things, because we here in the West have supported that, not really knowing what it was all about. And that's only becoming very clear to people now, 50 years after Zionism has made a mess of the Middle East. And nobody has any idea about the plight of the Palestinians here because nobody did any critical thinking. And and what was the next one? Engage in critical thinking exercises?
Solve puzzles, riddles, and logical problems, because they trigger those parts of the brains that challenge your reasoning and thinking abilities. And engaging in debates, analyzing case studies, and participate in critical thinking workshops or courses to sharpen your skills.
And the last one is practice self-compassion. Thinking deeply is not easy in a world of distractions. Develop a regular meditation or exercise practice to manage stress. A lot of news, entertainment shows like Fox or CNN, there are money generating shows based on the news, basically. And they're a little different than Saturday Night Live when they have their news kind of thing. It's almost the same. They pretend to have a news program as part of their show for entertainment purposes. It's the same with Fox and CNN. They're more into rage baiting though, that kind of thing to get you all upset, and it works. They make scads of money making fools out of all of us, and so I would say that yes, step away from it and look as a private observer. If you see a conflict between the U.S. and Iran, it's very easy for us to join the U.S. in its side of it because we're more similar to it. We're Western people. We're even on the same continent. But step aside and try to see Iran's point of view, and like as if you're an alien from outer space looking at two things you had no idea what it's all about. That's a good way of trying to do it. You'll probably still come to the same conclusion that Iran is a theocratic authoritarian state based on fear, and the United States is a kind of a kleptocracy, plutocracy kind of a state, but treats its people better. Anyway, so critical thinking is very, very important, and all agencies are trying to make sure that you don't do any critical thinking because you're easier to manipulate if you don't. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. What are all these comments?
Just a whole bunch of comments. I put the same question to Yahoo and it came back Peter Giblet. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that thought. They were mainly about critical thinking, and I hadn't done any while we were talking about it, so I caught up. All right. Okay. So Mark Carney said he and Trump have agreed to intensify trade negotiations. And apparently what has been happening over the last week or so is that US and Mexico have had trade negotiations and met the third round of bilateral talks, and they've done so without Canada. They don't explain why Canada wasn't involved, but then again, Canada doesn't necessarily need to be involved in every step anyway, because if they were dealing with specific US-Mexico problems, then those would be different than specific US-Canada problems.
Well, the answer is simple here. Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Right. The US is the big one here. It has the big economic muscle. So what it wants to do is make sure that Canada doesn't talk to Mexico. Mexico doesn't talk to Canada. It can use its weight against the Mexicans and then come back and use its weight against Canada separately. It should be noted that Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico and the Mexicans generally do not want a deal with the United States that excludes Canada.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Ms. Sheinbaum. This has been a problem for both Mexico and Canada. Will one make the deal excluding the other? So the Mexicans have quickly figured that out. Okay, they're going to separate us from Canada to make us weaker, not stronger. They're telling us we can make a deal with you. We don't need to include Canada. We can make a separate deal with you. You don't have to be part of the whole Kuzma thing. We can have a particular separate deal with you. And they know, and the Mexicans realize this is a divide and conquer tactic. Separate me from you, and then later victimize me.
Yeah.
You see, once you have divided that's the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer. And Sheinbaum is not going for that. So thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you very much, Mexicans. You see the dilemma that we're in. And I think Doug Ford should learn a lesson here, because he's dissed the Mexicans in the past, primarily because of the car, the Mexican or the Chinese cars that are coming into Mexico. They can tighten that up, but you don't go and point your finger at Mexico and say they're the ones that are doing the abuse, not us, right? But what Doug Ford learned, it didn't matter. Didn't matter if one pill of fentanyl crossed the border from Canada and a zillion crossed the border from Mexico. We're going to get tarred with the same brush.
Yeah.
And
but basically, we know Doug Ford's position has been that Canada should respond dollar for dollar on new tariffs.
Yes, well, I was just talking about his original idea of what the Mexicans did, because he used old frustrations against Mexico when first talking about the trade deals, about the new NAFTA thing. He has learned subsequently to that didn't make a difference at all. It was a general bully tactic for the whole world, not just Canada and Mexico.
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, basically, what they've done is they've taken this 1930 bill, this 1930 objective came that after the crash of the
Tariff Act, the Federal Tariff Act of 1930. Yes, and I've looked up actually that that section of it. Oh my God, this looks like one of the most droll bills out there. To be quite honest, acts out there. To be quite honest, Section 337 is about 15 pages long, whereas Section 338 is only about 3 pages long.
Yes. Well, basically what it is, it's an old rule that was supposed to protect the U.S. economy. Yeah. It never was enacted. Other ones like it were, like the Smoot-Hawley stuff were enacted, but this was never enacted. So obviously Trump has had his people combing through everything possible to use, and they found this one. I don't know if it will hold up in court or anything else like that, but it will cause us damage because it affects 5% of all of our imports. And Trump has found out all he has to say is say, I'm going to put this in because Canada has unfair trade practices in these areas. He doesn't have to prove it. Yeah. He just has to say it. And then the proof has to come later.
And the dairy one is found to be bogus anyway. That condition's already been there. And they've never hit the maximum criteria. So there's never been, that tariff has never, ever been triggered.
Yeah, well, let's explain that to our listeners. There is, during the last NAFTA talk, which turned NAFTA into CUSMA or USMCA, whatever you like, what happened then was it was guaranteed, the U.S. was guaranteed X amount of milk and dairy exports to Canada before the tariffs kick in.
Yeah.
So they're allowed so many gallons of milk, so many hunks of cheese, whatever, before the tariffs kick in. The tariffs have never kicked in because the American dairy producers have never supplied enough to Canada in order for the tariffs to kick in. The tariffs are around 200%, but they've never been kicked in. No amount of American milk or dairy products have had to face the tariffs. Or the charges, because they've never filled the amount that they're allowed to bring in tariff free. But they always go back to that and say, aha, Canada charges us 200% tariff. Well, charges their own people 200, and it's never happened, but they keep saying it.
Yeah.
You know, because it is part of the law, but it's never been enacted. You know, so anyway, aside from all of that, though, it's a divide and conquer thing. They want to intensify trade negotiations. Trump really wants to strip Canada of its leverage, the leverage it has on alcohol. We don't have much to fight back with, but we can fight back with restricting alcohol on our shelves, and that has finally got results, because Kentucky's flipping out, and now California's flipping out because their alcohol sales have gone down drastically.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say the one thing that I've always been opposed to this is because most of those are actually small businesses that you're affecting them. You know, they're not mega corporations. They're mainly you know, they're not part of some big corporation that can take the hit. Most of those, you know, the Kentucky bourbon industry is hurting.
It's hurting because we're heavy drinkers and we're not buying anymore.
Yeah.
And we used to, and I love Kentucky bourbon. I love Tennessee sour mash. I'm a fan of all those.
Yeah.
And California wines too. I couldn't tell you a good wine from a bad wine normally, but that's a big deal too. But it's not really small businesses. The California wine industry is enormous.
California wine industry, but those distilleries in Tennessee are not massive.
No, but they're an important part of the Tennessee and Kentucky bottom line.
Yeah,
so we're not really just we're not hurting the small businesses. We're hurting Kentucky. We're hurting Tennessee, and we're hurting California, the economies of those states, and that's why they're yelping.
I've never bought Californian wine. I've tasted Californian wine. I found it wanting in a lot of areas. Never impressed me at all.
Well, then you really didn't explore it, because there are a lot of California wines, and it's like France. Like France is known for its wine, but it has as many bad wines as it has good wines.
That's for sure.
You know, so the very best of the French wines are excellent. Their mid-grade wines are excellent, and that I would say the same for California. And Canadian wines are coming along really good. You're asking the wrong person, me, because I can't tell a good one from a bad one.
Because I am a wine person, and I don't believe the California wines have not developed the depth of taste that French wines have. Even bad French wine is leagues ahead of California wines.
You do know that there was a drought, a blight in California, and all their vines got killed.
Yeah.
And where did they get their vines from? They got them from California. So they took.
You mean the French? Actually, the French got a lot of their vines from Australia, believe it or not.
But enormous amounts of them. California was the one that saved France, because they were able to rejuvenate.
All
right. So basically, I would suggest that you take a trip down the Napa Valley in California, and you will find many wines.
But yeah,
you would find many wines that would delight your palate. I guarantee it.
I've never been to Napa, that's for sure. Yeah.
Carney says so the intensification of, I don't really buy a whole lot of this. Trump is looking for wins, and they're using the same strategy, divide and conquer, the bully tactics. We're gonna hit you, we're gonna hurt you, see it our way. What is very upsetting to me here is it's not a win-win kind of thing anymore. You know, it's me. Yeah. I'm going to get as much as I can. I might not be able to get 100%, maybe get 80%. Maybe I can really lean it. Instead of having a win-win situation where you have prosperity on both sides and good, honest competition, what you want to do is you want to put your opponent really in the corner. So this is not really good economics, if you ask me. What you want is dual prosperity, because you want your the country north of you and the country south of you, if you're in the United States, to trade fairly and good. You're always going to make out better than they do, because you have much more variety of things to trade. And we find that take oil out of the equation, and Canada buys way more from the States than the States buys from Canada. put oil back into it, and it shows a trade surplus on Canada's side. But that's because the United States takes that oil from Canada so that it can sell its oil outside of its borders and make huge profits, that kind of thing. So, and we notice here too that the new 50% tariff does not come on Western products like oil and fertilizer, because the American farmers would freak out, and oil and gas prices would go up. So,
all right.
So that kind of thing.
Okay. So very, very quickly, before we finish, Niagara Falls actually has done very well out of the World Cup, boosted very well according to local business and local tourist organizations.
Yeah. So that's what they claim. That's what their hope was from the very beginning. When I read the article and compared it in my mind to articles previously that I read, I don't think they really got what they wanted out of this. They seem to have had, and they haven't crunched the numbers yet, a bit of a bonus from the World Cup being here. So people who have traveled to North America to watch the soccer games also diversified their travel plans to go to other places in North America. And of course, one of those big ones was Niagara Falls, of course.
Niagara Falls, yeah. And so, actually, there's been a lot of, you just look at a kind of comments on the Niagara Falls groups on Facebook, and there's been a lot of visitors. The visitors are up. The numbers are up. It's clear just from looking at, hey, advise me on this and advise me on that and advise me on the other. Where do I find the best?
I would say
they're asking local people, and a lot of local people do respond to those groups.
In my mind, it's obvious that our city got some windfall from this.
Yeah. We
just don't know how much.
No, that's true. And we won't know until we can never know until the actual accounting is done next year.
I think though that I think probably they anticipated a little bit more than what we got. I think we're kind of grateful for what we did get, the surplus that we did get. And my question is, the ticket prices and the sort of hotel costs and everything were extremely high for the visitors that come. If they could make these more reasonable, could they have had even more visitors spill over into, and that wouldn't be just Niagara Falls, it would be other tourist attractions around North America.
Yeah,
I'm sure that people went to the Grand Canyon, etc.
Oh yeah. If you were out that way, if you were in Las Vegas or somewhere like that, you would head to the Grand Canyon, right?
Yes, and basically, and just I would go to the Grand Canyon just in hopes that that Donald Jesus Trump came to the Grand Canyon so I could push him in.
Or trip him over, or trip him up.
Yeah. Hey, do you look over there, Don?
Yeah. I think you've got TDS.
Oh, maybe.
Right. Anyway, so that's good news for us. And the accounting, you're right, the accounting hasn't been done yet, but that doesn't take, that's basically going to happen in time. The point being is that usually these feelings, when people are talking about this, they're doing it based upon, hey, empirical observation, and empirical observation is often important. And the fact that we had we had these World Cup screens in Niagara Falls, so that Niagara Falls fan zones they could get down on Queen Victoria Park and go and watch the game. Go and have a beer, go watch the game.
Yeah. So in all that kind of thing, I'm glad, of course, that and here in the article it points out a German fan who kind of went viral, posting on X about his travels across the continent, and of course he included Niagara Falls in a bunch of videos about Niagara Falls, and of course we had Ronaldo, I guess, or relatives of Ronaldo, the famous soccer star, here in Niagara Falls as well. Of course, we had Bosnia-Herzegovina president and the president of Croatia here as well.
Yeah.
So we had some really high-end people taking advantage of the fact they're in North America to come to Niagara Falls. And I think that kind of boosts our position around the world too. You know, you have high-end athlete, relatives of high-end athletes, presidents, and that kind of thing coming here and making it well known that they're here. That that helps big time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and I think we can kind of end it at that point.
Okay. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. And Mike says USA wants to conquer the world. Yes, Mike and Carney are doing so. Did Canada make money during the war, the World Cup, or lose money? Was it worth it? I'm pretty sure we made more than we lost.
I'm pretty sure
I can't tell you the truth.
But Ricky says we lost money.
Yeah.
Right? Ricky believes we lost money. He might be right. I'm not denying that. I'm not going to say that because it does cost a lot of money to host these events. And anyway, so Dave?
I will bring up Gaza one more time. Don't forget Gaza. I haven't got a whole lot of time to talk about it, but that nightmare is continuing, and don't let it leave the front page of your mind, because that's exactly what everyone wants in the United States, and Israel wants you to forget about it. Don't forget about it. That's an atrocity that keeps happening. Without further ado, I bid you adieu.